For Christians in the 21st century, signs of cultural degeneracy and decay are all around us. We see this from Hollywood, corporate advertising, politics, and now in our schools. But those of us who have been around a little longer know this is nothing new. Cultural and spiritual battles have always taken place. And a new documentary, a film called Culture Warrior, Don Wildmon in the Battle for Decency, explores the founding of the American Family Association, which grew from the founding of the National Federation for Decency back in 1977, leading to Don Wildmon quickly becoming a feared figure among network TV executives and advertisers. Gifted with a tremendous amount of common sense, shrewdness, and spiritual determination, Don's stand for righteousness continues to inspire and activate countless believers today. And it was a privilege of mine to have Don as a friend and, in a way, a mentor. Joining me now to discuss this is Tim Wildmon, president of the American Family Association and American Family Radio. Tim, welcome to Washington Watch.
Hey, Tony, good to be with you today.
Hey, congratulations on the film which just premiered this week. Tell us about it.
Well, it's a film that it's about my dad, as you said, Don Wildmon, who was one of the first leaders in what you would call the pro-family movement back in the 70s, and along with, others like Dr. James Dobson and Dr. D. James Kennedy and the LaHaye's and Phyllis Schlafly. There are others that I could name, but those are some of the names.
They're kind of what I call the Mount Rushmore evangelicals. I mean, they were the leaders, and it was a privilege of mine to get to work alongside all of them when I first came here to Family Research Council 21 years ago, working with your dad with the Arlington Group and his leading of a national effort. So he's been at this for a long time. Right?
Yeah. Dad started in '77 and gained a lot of national notoriety. He was, on ABC News Nightline with Ted Koppel. He was on the Phil Donahue show. These were big news shows back in the day. Meet the Press. You've been on some of those, Tony. But what Dad saw was a cultural and moral decline going on in America, and he wanted to try to do something to stop it, or at least to hold it back. Because he knew, as others did, who were looking into the future at that time, that if America began to reject the Judeo-Christian heritage of our country, of our founders, we would eventually end up kind of where we are now. And if we don't change, it's going to get even worse in terms of, the social ills that we see facing us, a decline of the family, sexually transmitted diseases, criminal activity, things that happen when the social mores break down. Dad could see that was what was ahead. And so anyway, this film, though, documents my dad's life and the ministry of NFD, which became American Family Association. And so we encourage people to go watch the trailer.
Now, where can they can see the trailer where?
Yeah, the trailer is at culturewarrior.movie.
Okay.
You rarely hear a .movie, but it is culturewarrior.movie. It's the trailer. The full film will be coming out, I think, in a few weeks. People can go watch that there, and it's really remarkable. I know you knew my dad, Tony, as you said. It's really remarkable what God did in his life to give him the tools and the skills that one would need to form an organization the size of American Family Association. Dad was a visionary, but he was also the kind of guy that could put things together. Some people are visionaries, but they don't have any common sense. Some people have a lot of common sense, but don't have any vision. And he always said God blessed him, with the ability to put things together, to get things done, and to organize and to be effective in the culture.
What really I really enjoyed getting to know your dad was that coming from Tupelo, some people took him as a country bumpkin. But I mean, this guy he was sharp, he was shrewd, he knew what he's doing, a master at marketing. And, you know, I think I've told you the story about one of his first books someone handed to me back when I was in the anti-terrorist business. And little did I ever think that I would be working alongside Don Wildmon in years.
Oh, the man the networks love to hate?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the book?
Yeah. But I wanted to go back to something you just said here, Tim, a moment ago. You said, you know, he was trying to prevent what we see actually happening today.
Yeah.
And some would say, well, see, look, it didn't do any good. Here's what I think people need to understand. Christians, we've been called to be salt and light.
Right.
Both. Salt preserves and slows decay. Doesn't prevent it, doesn't keep it from happening, but it slows it. Can you imagine what our country would look like if Don Wildmon hadn't been there, American Family Radio had not been there? In the other Christian ministries that have, I mean, we've been here 40 years in our nation's capital.
No, absolutely. What you guys do in the political arena, in the government arena, what we do to help in that arena to the extent that we can, what we do in the social moral values arena to hold back the tide of wickedness, of evil. I mean, that counts for something. I mean, it does. And I remember back in, during the 80s, Dad's work and others was able to get, I think, pornographic magazines, 20,000 convenience stores and drugstores removed them from their shelves. Well, how many
I remember that.
How many lives were prevented from getting into that mess?
Tim, final question for you. When you were growing up, your dad was doing this. What did you think when your dad launched into this? I mean, left his church, started this new ministry. What were you thinking?
Well, I was because I would have been about 14 years old. So I was thinking, what exactly is this going to look like? Because I knew what a church looked like, and Dad was the pastor of the First United Methodist Church in South Haven, Mississippi, and he had been a pastor for 9 years. So I know what that looked like. But then we go from that to working out of our home, with an offset machine, a printing machine, for those who don't know, a telephone, and that was where his office was. And then he began to travel like crazy, going to speak at all kind of churches and denominational meetings and television appearances. And he had to at the time because he had to get the word out about what he was advocating for so that people would join and support. And so that worked. That was a lot. He was all by himself basically for a year or two. And but obviously, looking back now, some 40 whatever it is years later, over 45 years later, that God's hand was on my dad. Dad did hear right when God said, "Come out of the pulpit, and I got a special work for you to do." Dad listened, obeyed, and here we are today. Of course, Dad passed last December, but his work for nearly 4 decades proved that he did hear from the Lord.
Yeah, and you got to cut a lot of grass while he was traveling. And now your sons are moving into the ministry as well in leadership roles.
Wesley and Walker, and so they are. So it's a generational calling here, if you will. But the movie trailer is culturewarrior.com. Culturewarrior.com. Culturewarrior.movie.
All right. We're going to encourage people to check it out and go see it when it comes out to the theaters.
Okay.
Tim Wildmon, we appreciate you and American Family Radio and the whole Wildmon family.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Good to be with you.